This is a story of a first-year teacher. He was hired to teach social studies, but was quickly switched to science because, bright-eyed, he thought he was able to make the challenge, and teaching sixth grade science would be a walk in the park. However, this person could never have been more wrong. Throughout the year he struggled, and every conceivable strategy he came up with fell flat on its face. Frustrated and dejected, he did not know what he was missing to bring it all together. But if you haven't guessed it by now, this is a story of myself, and how I was able to overcome some of the struggles in teaching middle school science. The key I was looking for is a little bit more intangible. I hadn't really noticed it until I came across an interesting article entitled Building the Habits of the Mind. I'm personally a little crazy, and this comes off as a constant focus for self-improvement. I read books, articles, and coincidentally, watched a few TED Talks on how to improve both professionally and personally. So this Habits of the Mind article was interesting food for thought. I not only read it for myself, but then it sort of dawned on me that the reason why my students were struggling and my plans weren't working was because they hadn't developed proper habits of the mind. So today I'm going to focus on fostering scientific habits of the mind. Specifically, we're going to focus on three things. 1, questioning and posing problems. 2, listening to others with understanding and empathy. And 3, striving for precision and accuracy. After reading this article and reflecting on my classroom, these were 3 key things that I thought my students just really didn't know how to do. So let's go back to questioning and posing problems. This comes in the form of discovery learning in my class. So to start out class, I usually show them a real-life example of the concept they're learning for that day. And at the beginning of the year, I often find students just waiting for me to tell them the right answer. Like I would show them something, and they would just wait for me to say what it was. So to solve this, I then had students pose their own questions and answer questions to help foster a discussion. Students questioning and ultimately finding their own solutions to scientific concepts is not only more engaging, but also develops habits of the mind to solve problems when presented with a stimulus instead of just waiting for the right answer. The second habit of the mind I wanted to focus on was listening to others with understanding and empathy. One of my biggest pet peeves as a teacher personally is when students don't listen to each other. And I don't really mean not just like misunderstanding what the other person said or not being able to restate it, but also not understanding like their full perspective, like what the person actually means or where they're coming from. And this is a critical habit that even I as an adult, and I would argue that many adults, haven't mastered yet. So to try and build this habit or mindset, once we observe the concept of the phenomena for the day in science, and this happens at the beginning of class, I usually plan an organized discussion for the students to not only delve into their own questions that they're posing, but also try and understand the concept through their own questions and questions that I posed for them. As sixth graders, usually this discussion is kept a little bit more organized of a series of questions that I've given them, but sometimes I feel that having them ask their own questions is actually a more effective way for them to understand the concept. However, this activity only is really effective if they're actually listening to each other, not only what they're saying, but what they're actually implying or meaning. And therefore, to foster this, what I do is I have students not only write down their own answers and their opinions, but they have to constantly, through a graphic organizer, write down the speaker's opinion or who they're talking to not only ensure that they're understanding the opinion, but also to then have them understand the perspective of the person they're talking to. And the last habit of the mind I wanted to discuss was precision and accuracy, and I think that this is definitely the most important habit to build. And sort of the most distressing habit I, as a teacher, found at the beginning of the year was when I saw students get an assignment back, like when I'd had them back, or an exit ticket, or something of the sort, they'd sort of take a look at it and then just see the grade or the score, put it inside of their backpack, or even worse, just like ball it up and throw it away. And so on a personal level, I had a really big problem with that. I was like, I don't spend hours creating assignments just for students to throw them away. And then thinking about it on a more developmental level, I always thought that, formative assessments are meant for students to realize and internalize their successes and mistakes, and then sort of use that feedback to improve for the future. And that's one of the things I thought my students really just weren't doing and really didn't even know how to do. So in order to improve on that, I created a mastery tracker system. So whenever the student gets a work or a piece of work back, they not only have to record their grade and how it reflects upon their overall grade, but also the feedback that I've given them. And so when they copy that down, they have to reflect upon how they can do better next time. And since I started doing that at the beginning of the year, I've not only seen like a dramatic increase in investment in my class because they're invested in their grade, but also students are now striving to learn from their mistakes and put forth the best work, and that's ultimately the desired outcome. So you can take a look at all of these things that I've talked about in the supporting documents, and thank you guys for listening.